Celtics Cavaliers. So, Celtics win game 2 pretty demonstratively. Did I say game 2?
Well,
I
they
mean
did
game
win
1.
game two, but
No, the Celtics.
they lost game.
Celtics won game 1 pretty demonstratively. Lost game 2 by 24, which is just unacceptable to this definitely inferior team. Come out in game 3, play pretty solid, and we just watched the end of Celtics Cavs game 4, and as Celtics fan, I was not very happy watching that. Pitiful performance by Brown, pitiful by Missoula. Derek White he lost his touch to the Monstars. Tatum's been playing a bit better. He's honestly been carrying them the last 2 games. But yeah, I think the Celtics are probably going to take this in 5, especially without Mitchell, assuming Mitchell doesn't play game 5.
Mm.
But yeah, this series is pretty bad too.
They should definitely be winning this in 5 games, 6 games. I mean, if this goes 6 games, I'd be shocked at this point. This was the game they would have had to win.
Yes.
It was back in Cleveland. And then on top of it, it was close pretty much the whole game, and then Celtics kind of pulled it out there towards the end. But they're really going to have to start picking it up and making sure that they start closing these games out better.
Yeah.
And then honestly, they're just playing better from start to finish. Because like right now, we play the injury-riddled Knicks or the Pacers in the conference finals. There's no way we're beating Minnesota or Denver. Maybe we can get by Dallas. You never know if Luke is still not really too
We would
comfortable.
beat Dallas.
You gotta start playing better. This is a joke. Come on, wake up. You gotta be just annihilating these teams, grabbing the games by the neck and just pulling it off. Because especially Minnesota and Denver, whichever team comes out of that, because that's a crazy series right now.
Yes.
At that point, you're looking at we're potentially not gonna have the best player in the court with both of those teams, and at the same time, it's like the rest of their teams are constructed so well. They play well as a unit. They're well coached. They're drilled. We're gonna have a tough time with whoever we get potentially.
Go ahead.
I think you can make the case. I have 2 things. One, I think you can make the case the Celtics shouldn't lose another game until they get to the finals.
I thought they were going to sweep the Cavs.
Right. So you could very well make that argument that they shouldn't even lose another game.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, what did them in, the only negative is, what did them in against the Warriors and come back to bite them this year. Because they still don't really run a well-oiled offense.
Yeah.
It doesn't look clean when it's a close game. It's like, who's going to bail us out? Who's going to save us? There was a Peyton Pritchard ISO. Obviously, there were some Tatum ISOs, Brown ISOs, and it's predictable, and they don't always make those shots. And against Cleveland, without Donovan Mitchell, you can win by 7 with seemingly
and Jared Allen.
with no fluid off Jared Allen.
Jared Allen either.
Yeah.
If you play Denver, I don't think that's going to work.
Tonight was
Or Minnesota even.
Tonight was a devastating game as a Celtics fan, watching that and actually biting your nails when the Cavs are missing their first and probably 3rd or 4th best player.
I would debate we had 4 out of the best 5 players on the floor, 3 out of the best 4 in the league.
Maybe. Derek White was not awesome tonight either.
But just ability-wise.
But the one thing that, it's not an excuse because we had games without him, but we don't have Porzingis right now. You could argue he's our 2nd best offensive player and probably our 2nd best defensive player after Holiday. Or maybe White. I don't know. All the Celtics starters are solid on D, but Porzingis is so important. Obviously, Luke Cornett's also a 7-footer, but he just he can't stretch the floor and he doesn't have a lot of coordination. And Al Horford, the ISOs he's getting put on skates by everybody. And he's only 6'10 or 6'9. He's not a huge center, so the rebounding without Porzingis isn't great. Even though Porzingis isn't usually an awesome rebounder, but just having a 7'3" guy on the floor is so huge. I think with him we probably would have swept the Cavs, but nonetheless, we should come out of this series. One thing we should discuss though is what's going on with until the last 2 games. What's been going on with Tatum? Started out the first 6 games shooting around 40% from the field and less than 30% from 3, averaging 20 points. His rebounding was all right. He was over 10, which is, it's really good for him. But it wasn't making up for the fact that he wasn't really a superstar level player.
Yeah, for me, I think the problem is just that there's so many hands to see in the Celtics.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's like Kevin Durant, when he was in his prime, it's kind of like I almost view Jason Tatum as like a lesser version of Kevin Durant in his prime almost.
It's a fair comp.
But like it's just kind of like Kevin Durant was a lot better. He had a better hand, a tighter handle. I mean, he was bigger. He was just better off the dribble. And even though Kevin Durant was always an off-ball player, when he got the ball, it was just like he was so efficient with it every single time, and it's like it felt like everybody was genuinely like afraid of KD whenever he had the ball. But now it's just like I look at these close games, and it's like what we were mentioning before with the Celtics and how they just like it's ISO ball towards the end of the games and stuff. I just see so many times I see Jason Tatum taking the worst shot in basketball because not only is he shooting a fadeaway shot, he's shooting a long two fadeaway in the post.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens almost every single time at the end of games, and it's just like he doesn't have like that ability that KD had in his prime, where it's like that's his shot and he can just shoot over the top of anybody.
Yeah.
Like people can get a contest on him and still like alter the shot. And at the same time, it's just an awful shot to begin with. When you're shooting a long two in the post to close out a game, that's a pretty awful shot. Like you want to be getting to the rim or you want to be getting a good three. So
yeah,
it's just it's a big problem. I don't know if it's schemes that Joe Mazzulla is drawing up. I mean, I don't think he's a good coach, but I don't know if it's what he's doing or if it's just Tatum is on the it factor, or just the rest of these guys just like also are getting involved and want to be doing stuff. We mentioned the Pritchard ISO too. I mean, like that's what's happening at the end of the game. That's pretty scary if you're trying to win a championship.
You're right. Before you go, Hutch, let me just address the KD thing quickly, and then I'll address the original question after you. I think the difference between Tatum and KD at the end of games is just the amount of time it takes Tatum to shoot. Tatum's wind up, so to speak, to shoot. He like moves fluidly all the way from his feet. Like KD, like his release was so quick and it was above everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Tatum, it's just like he doesn't have the ability to just like shoot quickly. Like he's an awesome scorer, but he doesn't get to like that position where he can just like surprise you with a shot. Like you see it coming. It's just because he's 6'10" and fading away that he gets it off. But yeah, I think that's kind of the big difference is just Jason Tatum's shot mechanic at the end of games. He's not really like kind of player you want taking like a surprise shot at the end of a game.
Yeah.
Like a Damian Lillard who just grabs it and chucks it, or a Steph, or any of these guys.
Well, he's not quite a pure shooter either.
You're right.
In that sense, yeah. I mean, I would pretty much agree with everything that you guys just said. I mean, when I think of his scoring, I think he's really good at most things, and he's an okay ball handler. He's good, but he's not necessarily elite at anything, especially in sort of a one-on-one ISO moment. Like, he can't get the basket like LeBron used to, and he can't shoot like KD did. He can't shoot from three like Steph or Dame could. So to me, it's like, I don't know what his go-to move is, or go-to sort of idea is when he's going to score in these late-game situations, and I feel like it's hard for him because he's like, I guess I'll just post up and take a fadeaway because that's something he can get off. And when you take the fadeaway, you will get the shot in the air.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't think he's quite that level scorer. Yeah. You can consistently think, yeah, he can take over the game. Like sometimes he can, for sure.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think Tatum's kind of he's got like a bit of versatility because now he's put on a bit of mass. So he's like KD never really had like the physical game Tatum has now. But at the same time, like you said, I mean, I wouldn't say Tatum's not elite, but he's not like, I mean, it depends on how elite you mean elite is. Because, like, he's not a Steph shooter, and he's not a LeBron driver.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah, you're comparing him to, like, these, like, all-time greats.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. Like, he's not all-time great level at really anything. He's kind of just good at a lot of things.
Yeah.
I personally think that his struggles resulted a lot from just Mazzulla's coaching. I think it's been absolutely abhorrent throughout this whole playoff run. The way that he is coaching this team. Taking Tatum out 4 minutes into the game to put Cornet in. I mean, what are we thinking? What's Cornet? I mean, I know Porzingis is out. What's Cornet, though? Our 10th best player, maybe? 9th or 10th. And Tatum coming out after 4 minutes. Usually Brown's the guy who gets, like, the first couple shots because he's, like, our tone setter. If Tatum doesn't get to shoot at the beginning of the game, then when he comes in halfway through the second quarter, what do you expect him to do? He's going to be cold. What needs to happen is exactly what happened in game 3 and 4, which I've been preaching for Joe Mazzulla to do, is let Tatum play the entire first quarter. Every other superstar in the NBA is playing 40-ish minutes a night. And Tatum is like, it feels like he's not, because he doesn't play for pretty much the whole first quarter and then the end of the third. Tatum scored 14 in Game 3 in the first quarter, 16 in Game 4 in the first quarter. That's absurd. That's an incredible quarter. Both on pace for 60-point games. Obviously, it's not going to happen, but like those level scoring outputs in the first quarter are what the Celtics need. And I know Jaylen Brown does it sometimes, but we don't need, like, you want your best player to be hot. I mean, it's great to have your second best player be hot too, but it's got to be Tatum. And there's also some stretches throughout these games where I watch and Tatum doesn't get past the ball for 5 minutes because sometimes, like, he's not obviously, like you said, he's not the ball handler of the team. He can, but he's not the guy. He's probably not even in the top 3. So when you have Pritchard or Holiday or White dribbling up the court, and then once they pass it to Brown, obviously Tatum's not getting it back. When he doesn't shoot for 5 minutes and then he wants to get himself going and he takes one of these ill-advised step-back threes, it's just not going to work. So that's a lot of making excuses for Tatum. Now to put some blame on Tatum. He needs to realize that he's 6'10", 230, with enormous shoulders, and drive. Like, every minute. Every minute of the game, drive. I don't care if you get fouled. I don't care if you miss your layup. I don't care if you kick. That's how offense works in the NBA. The offense in the NBA is not wait until there's 4 seconds left on the shot clock, dribbling back and forth through your legs and do a step back on their best defender. So, overall, I think Missoula is putting the Celtics in pretty bad positions to win. But it doesn't take away the blame from, I mean, Tatum, you're shooting 40% from the field. That's pretty terrible. Why don't you take some shots that aren't fadeaways from 26 feet that are actually high percentage shots? You can take. How easy is it for Tatum to get to the elbow? And why do you have to fade away every time you shoot? You're 6'10", just jump straight up. You know? I don't know. But obviously Tatum's my favorite player, and he's been really disappointing in this playoff run until these past 2 games. His playmaking and rebounding's been all right, but if the Celtics are trying to win a championship, he needs to really take it up to that next level, because you have all these guys who shouldn't be as good as you, like Anthony Edwards and Jalen Brunson, scoring 40, and Kyrie Irving dropping 30 bombs, 40 bombs. Like, that should not be. And Tyrese Maxey, 50-point game in the first round, and he's, like, most people wouldn't even put him in their top 15. You can't allow all these guys to surpass you in the playoffs, let alone Derek White.
Well, to me, that's the one thing to separate him from sort of the rest. Most superstars really are consistent at scoring. I mean, Steph would occasionally have like a bad scoring night where he'd score 12 or whatever. But generally speaking, if you're a top, say, 7 player, you pretty much score what you're going to score every night. It's generally pretty standard. So, like, for him to have these bad splits and low percentages and low points per game, it's like, he's better than that, you know?
Well, the problem, too, is, like, when you look at his season stats, or, like, at the end of the playoff, I mean, when they went to the finals, it didn't look great, but, like, when you look at his stats, you're like, oh, that's not that bad. But the problem is he'll have a great game and then an absolute stinker. And that's what the ones you can't have, because you lose a game 2 at home to the Timberwolves in the finals, you are not in good shape. The Celtics don't really have the same maturity level the Nuggets do to come back from those kind of scenarios.
Yeah. One last thing I gotta say before we move on is that, I mean, when it comes to Jason Tatum and like the new generation of American players, at least, I think overall it's been pretty disappointing. And like, he clearly was the guy that was supposed to be like the next like great American player. And now you have Anthony Edwards just coming out of nowhere, and he's kind of just taking that mantle from him almost. Everybody in the national media is trying to portray him as like the next face of the league or the next face of American basketball. I mean, right now, I mean, I'm not too high on a lot of these American guys coming off. I mean, I think that compared to what we had before with LeBron, Steph, and KD, I don't think Tatum, Booker, and Anthony Edwards are anywhere near what what we once had, which is why I'm worried for USA basketball, but that's a different topic. But, I mean, I do think that Joe Mazzulla is a big problem. I think that if this team is coached by Ime Udoka, this team probably would walk into the finals. You'd see, easy wins.
Probably already have one.
Yeah, they probably already have. Would have swept the. We would have had a championship by this point, but we also probably would have swept that first round versus the Heat. And I mean, this series would have been just insane.
We'd be waiting for the Knicks and Pacers to finish up right now.
Yeah, but unfortunately, and also the problem with this too is that because it was so easy. Like, we're probably, I mean, not probably, we're going to go to the finals assuming, like, nothing major happens. Yeah. And then if we lose in the finals, what, are we just going to fire a coach? You know what I mean? Like, they're going to give him another year if we make the finals. That's what's
No, he'll get
happen.
fired.
If they lose him...
Mazzulla's going to get fired if they don't win the title.
We'll see.
He has to, because he is...
I don't think they will.
I'm completely anti-firing coaches. I hate firing coaches. Like, Darvin Ham, took that team to the conference finals last year. The same team stunk this. I mean, they didn't stink. They played the Nuggets, in fairness. But, that was not fire-worthy offense, even though he might not be the best coach. Frank Vogel. I mean, Matt Ishbia, you're probably the worst owner in the NBA. You stole your entire team for Kevin Durant. You don't deserve to get fired, Frank Vogel. You did what you could. That defense was in the top 15. Who thought that Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal, and Grayson Allen, and Nurkic, who's an offensive center, would be a top 15 defense? You know, he did the best he could. But to me, Joe Mazzulla, you have one of the best teams since the 2018 Warriors. There's no excuse unless you play the Nuggets and lose in 7. To lose. That's the only... If it goes any other way, assuming we get Porzingis back, but if it goes any other way, he has to go, because that's just terrible.
Well, the problem could be the players.
It could be the players.
Depends what happens. If Jason Tatum has an awful series or Jaylen Brown's awful, that changes it too.
You're right.
So you go, oh, we need to make a trade.
You're right, but I don't know. To me, there's so much talent on this team. If Joe Mazzulla could just figure out the lineups, he would put them in places to win. If he realized that taking Tatum out 3 minutes into the game doesn't lead to winning, then they should win a championship. Not playing Cornet once Porzingis comes back. Why is Xavier Tillman not playing? Every second he's played in the playoffs, he's been plus player. Anyway, well, that series is also going to be miserable for the rest of the game. Hopefully the last. And the Celtics should waltz to the end of the finals. And that's going to do it for today's segment. Make sure you check out some of our other videos.
Like and subscribe.